Hi, this is Jeremy DeNovo, aka Mr. Variety. You can support me and my health Etsy.com/shop/, who needs designers. You can also go to Variety Sessions, support Variety Sessions at the link you see there. But I'm trying to figure out my health situation.
Because your muscle should
There's this doctor who talks
your
about
body has
health
to build a
issues.
scar tissue
There you go.
for this area to heal. Otherwise, it's permanent tear and it will never gonna heal. The problem is if your body build excessive scar tissue, like what happened here in the third image here, all of these in the way of your muscles, because your muscles should act like a rubber band when it contract and relax, should stretch like this. When you have scar tissue in your muscle, it's like you have a knot in a rubber band. So when your muscle stretch, will not stretch much because that knot will decrease the range of motion. And that's what happened with a lot of occipital neuralgia, a lot of scar tissue in that area that prevent full lengthening of the muscle and the tissue, and that compress on occipital nerve. It's kind of suffocating the nerve, so you start to have those throbbing or electric shock pain that go into the head because that knot, it's like a rock compressing on that nerve. That's a very important part of the treatment. So occipital neuralgia, you may be stuck in the proliferation stage, which a lot of scar tissue, a lot of tightness, or your body going back and forth between inflammation and proliferation, and we have to work on that simultaneously. So what I personally use for a scar tissue, I use the A3 tool to break superficial scar tissue. It's very easy to use, and we do that in relationship to the inflammation, and I go over that in detail for the patient self-treatment program, how to distinguish and when to use the tool in relationship to inflammation and proliferation. The other
So I'm just doing some research to try to find out what my condition is. This person's talking about the fascia release, which is a thin layer of wrapping that's underneath the skin, between the skin and the muscles and the nerves and the tissue. It's actually between the skin and the tissue. It's this layer called the fascia layer. That's what this person's saying. I would guess the doctor. That this person also invented this one item here. It's on the bottom of the A5 that goes 2.5 inches into the skin, as opposed to an elbow and a knuckle that cannot go 2.5 inches into the skin to break the scar tissue that this person invented. It says here they call the A5, but that's interesting that scar tissue can build up so much, and that you need to be able to break scar tissue up with the proper tools. But check this out.
you have a short screwdriver, it's impossible to really unscrew it because the screwdriver is very short, and that's exactly what happened with the hand, with the knuckle, with the elbow or foam roller. You're not gonna go deep enough to the restricted area, so your screwdriver is very short, so impossible to cause physiological change in the deep tissue unless you really have the tool to go deep in the tissue. So the other thing that's extremely overlooked, and I'm gonna go over some like briefly on the fascia system in this video to appreciate the complexity of the fascia system, because it's an extremely important part of the treatment and it's overlooked by a lot of healthcare providers. So the fascia system, it's the superficial fascia layer. It's like a wrap surrounding the entire body. It's like a Spider-Man suit, very thin layer under the skin wrapping the entire body. And you can see here in this image, the fascia is like the white web tissue here and here and in here. And as I mentioned to you, the Gilia apparatica, this is actually apparatic fascia. this is a fascia layer that wrapping the head, this area. So when you have a knee restriction, scar tissue in the fascia layer, that's gonna compress on everything underneath it, and you might have occipital neuralgia plus tension headache plus other issues because everything is tight in the head area. So to make things complicated, but don't worry, the treatment is extremely simple, is the fascia layer. We have several layers. So our body divided to two big categories of fascia: superficial layer wrapping the entire body, and we have the deep layer. The deep layer is actually divided to four subcategories, and you can see it here. The apparatic fascia, it's wrapping a group of muscle, epimysin wrapping individual muscle, and then you have the premiysin that's wrapping bundle of fibers, and the endomysin wrapping each individual fiber. And why I'm going over this, because it's extremely important system, and if we don't address all these layers of the fascia, it's basically you're not treating the whole system. You're just picking and choose layers and avoiding the other layers. And it's extremely more common to have issue in the deeper area than the superficial layer. So to make things more complicated, each of these layers have 1 to 2 subcategories on the top of each other. And that's make it more complicated, but don't worry, the treatment is very simple. So to visualize it, you have the apparatic fascia layer wrapping a group of muscle, and then you have the epimysin.
Well, very interesting, I should say. It's very interesting. You guys talking about layers, you know, about the structures and how the interconnectedness of these systems, and I'm interested. I have issues with the tightness of my skin or around this area. I have trouble with well, I think nerve pain, because I had this cut from here to here, about 4 to 5 total inches of an incision, meaning they had to break the nerves open and go through it in order to get to the back of my head to do the treatment on the cavernoma back then. But now we have these nerve endings that are broken open that need to be able to be talk with one another again, and I think it's because of the scar tissue stopping them from being able to talk with one another again. Now, when I first had my brain surgery, now the first 3 months I was just sitting down doing nothing, healing the inside, the internal cranium. But then after the 3 months, I went back to work, and I was even able to ride bikes for about 5 to 6 months. At that point in time, just riding my bike, walking around, you know, didn't have to take any medicine at all, you know, for anything, because there was flow, there was movement through there. But then after about almost a year, I just started taking medication for inflammation and things like that, probably because the scar tissue was just, you know, around that area. And I believe that I can break up that scar tissue with some help, and allow that part of the body to be able to flow again, especially the nerve endings that are just yelling at me, because, well, they're not yelling at me. Let's redirect that. They're yelling at something to try to get to somewhere. You know, they're not trying to kill me. They're trying to, you know, they're trying to reconnect me, and something is stopping them, and so they're angry, but they're yelling. You know, that's why I keep getting headaches. They're not headaches, they're nerve aches, you know, and I could feel it very, like, I press there, out, press out, yeah, press out, you know, like, yeah, definitely ow, but, you know, like, there's probably the worst right there. Ooh, my, right there. But anyway, it's just scar tissue that's built up that needs to be broken down, and pretty much, you know, I think it needs to be broken down. I don't know. I need movement. I need life. I need circulation there again, you know. But before the surgery, I was just fine. I didn't have any of those troubles at all. Nerve issues, not a problem there. It was after the surgery, neurosurgical, that I started to have these issues. So anyway, I'm thinking I can get through them, and thinking that the body can do its thing, but I need help. You know, and I need The nerves and everything that's yelling, not at me, but they're yelling for help. You know, they need help too. They're just trying to say, hey, get me some help. All right, I'm working on it. All right, what's this, Jeremy? I'm just trying to figure out my situation here. Here in Delaware, Ohio. Most people can think of it as Columbus because that's essentially the same location. But occipital nerve, I think that's the greater and then the lesser. The greater occipital nerves, I think that's where I'm having the issue, but I could be wrong. I don't know my issues. Anyway, I'm gonna get going. Thanks for checking out this video. Check out and occipital neuralgia pain naturally. Symptoms, causes, healing, and by this guy named Dr. Joseph Jacobs, DPT. I think this is a really good lead, but I'm looking, I'm trying to find the answers. See you guys. Now you're probably wondering, why the wavy red neckline hem? Why not? And then nerve distribution, and then you find out the lookup, and then can the scalp nerves regenerate after scar tissue forms, but its operation corrects. Not effective as foam roller and a massage because of what he says. Then there's some different stages he talks about, going back and forth between those stages because they're trying to advance but they cannot. There's inflammation, and what's he talking about with 2 different stages that goes back and forth. Proliferation is one of those stages. Scar tissue trigger points, fascial release, where you have to release these items that are locked up in order for them to progress forward. On the right is progressing backwards. On the left is progressing forward, or already healthy. The top part is something that breaks down scar tissue. The bottom part is 2.5 inches into scar tissue. This doctor, come up with it. Oh, by the way, support me. And occipital neuralgia pain. I need food. Food's good. Even though I have a website, hardly anybody ever uses it to give money, but you know, hey, it's there. You can. Doesn't mean you should. But you can scan the code and find out the page that I use to have that. Because a lot of times, I can't afford what other people can. But health above all, and to improve are the priorities. And right now, my head hurts. Anyway, that's me. I haven't had the chance, but I'm trying to do me. Peace out, Bryce.